The sky above the coastline glowed with the fierce brightness of noon, yet inside the helicopter slicing through the air, fear overshadowed every drop of sunlight. The rotors screamed against a sudden violent wind, the cabin shuddered like it would break apart, and for a split second, it felt as if the earth was rushing upward to swallow them whole. In the chaos, a trembling voice rose, sharp and desperate. "Leave me," shouted Adrian Cowlon, one of the richest and most untouchable business figures in the country. His normally composed face was twisted with terror as he clung to the loose safety harness barely hanging on. But beside him, a calm yet determined single father named Rehan Boss reached out through the shaking storm of noise and panic, refusing to let go. What he did in the next moment would not only save lives but reveal the truth about courage, humanity, and second chances in a way no one inside that helicopter would ever forget. If you believe in kindness, humanity, and second chances, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Stories of Kindness. Your support helps these emotional stories reach more hearts. The turbulence outside wasn't part of the plan. Rehan, a 38-year-old widowed father who worked as an air rescue technician, had joined the special flight only because of a staffing emergency. He wasn't supposed to be on duty that day. He was supposed to be picking up his 10-year-old daughter, Myra, from her school's open day event. She had been excited for weeks, preparing a science model she hoped her father would admire. But when the call came that a high-priority corporate client needed aerial assistance for a coastal site inspection, Rehan was the only available specialist. He couldn't afford to lose the shift. The bills were piling up, his daughter's medical checkups were due, and he knew too well what it meant to sacrifice personal moments for survival. Adrian Cowlon, the billionaire on board, was no stranger to controversy. News outlets loved painting him as a cold, unreachable man who lived in a world built on power, distance, and ruthless decisions. With silvered hair, sharp eyes that usually conveyed unshakable superiority, and a tailored white summer shirt with sleeves neatly folded, he seemed like someone carved out of stone rather than born from flesh and emotion. But today, as the helicopter swayed like a toy caught in the grip of a child's tantrum, he looked painfully human, small, terrified, and on the verge of breaking. The flight had started smoothly, the ocean glittering below like scattered gems under the striking daylight. Rehan sat opposite Adrian, going through routine safety checks. Beside them was their pilot, Captain Monroe, a calm man in his late 50s with a reputation for precision and nerves of steel. But when the storm system moved in earlier than forecasted, the winds over the cliffs turned unpredictable, swirling like invisible whirlpools that battered the helicopter from all sides. A loud metallic jolt rang out, sharp as thunder. Something snapped. The helicopter jerked violently downward, and Adrian's seat harness ripped loose on one side. The billionaire was thrown sideways, his body hanging out toward the screaming wind. Sunlight flashed around him in harsh, blinding bursts. His glasses flew off, spiraling away into the open sky. Panic poured out of him in a way that no headline about him had ever suggested he was capable of. "Leave me. Just leave me," he shouted, voice shaking like a man who had never known helplessness until this exact second. But Rehan lunged forward, planting one foot against the cabin floor, anchoring himself against the tilt, and grabbed Adrian's wrist before the billionaire could slip further toward the open door. The force of the wind made his eyes water. His muscles burned against the pull. His entire body felt like it might tear apart, but he held on. The helicopter shook again, more violently than before. Captain Monroe was yelling something about losing altitude. Red emergency lights blinked in the cabin. Warning alarms shrieked like frightened birds. Yet through it all, Rehan kept his grip on Adrian, tightening as if he were holding on to both the billionaire and the memories of every person he had ever lost. The memory of his late wife, Ayla, washed over him. She had collapsed suddenly 3 years ago from a rare heart complication. He had been right there, holding her hand, promising he would fix everything. But he couldn't. Since then, he had trained relentlessly, dedicating himself to rescue operations because saving others gave him a purpose he couldn't find anywhere else. He refused to let go of anyone on his watch, even if they begged him to. Adrian's voice cracked as he shouted again, "You'll fall. Let me go." Rehan gritted his teeth, pulling with every ounce of strength. "I'm not letting anyone go today," he muttered under his breath, though the roar of the wind swallowed his words whole. The pilot fought to stabilize the aircraft, banking it carefully away from the cliffs. Through the front window, bright daylight shimmered across the rough waves below, threatening and magnificent at the same time. Rayhan could feel the thin line between life and death stretching beneath them. Another violent jolt sent a toolbox sliding across the floor. It slammed against the side, the clang echoing like a warning bell. With one final heave, Rayhan yanked Adrian back into the cabin, both men crashing onto the metal floor. Sweat dripped from Rayhan's forehead. His chest heaved with deep breaths. Adrian lay shaking, eyes wide, as though he couldn't understand why someone like Rayhan, someone he'd likely never consider equal, had risked his life for him. But the danger wasn't over. Seconds later, Captain Monroe lost partial engine power. The helicopter rattled, sinking lower and closer to the churning sea. The pilot shouted for them to brace. Rayhan grabbed the emergency straps and secured Adrian's harness by hand, knotting it tightly. He checked the backup oxygen valve, then crawled forward to assist Monroe. Outside, the storm clouds drifted apart, allowing more sunlight to pour through. The brightness of the day made everything look surreal, like the world refused to darken despite the crisis inside the aircraft. Rayhan took the auxiliary controls beside the captain, helping stabilize the descent. His hands moved on instinct, trained from years of simulations and emergency drills.